General Kuperwasser, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. First of all, Brigadier General, not a Major General, but
Sorry.
the rest was correct.
I think this is the second time we've made that mistake, and you'll just have to accept the promotion.
Always good to be upgraded, but anyhow, we are definitely after a very challenging night here in Israel, with more than 330 projectiles launched towards Israeli targets by the Iranians in clear and actually declared move of changing the rules of the game, as they called it. Whereas until now, the battle between Israel and Iran was done well, being fought in other areas, not in Iran itself, or at least not publicly. The Iranians, for the first time, have decided to move and start launching missiles and drones from their own territory to Israel. The reason for that is that they were trying to stretch the limits of the rules of the existing or previous rules of the game for a while. During that war, they allowed Hezbollah to launch rockets and anti-tank missiles against us continuously. They allowed the Houthis to operate with their weapons, the Iranian weapons, against us and against other targets continuously. And recently, they have given green light to the Iraqi militias, the Shiite militias that work under their command, to launch drones and rocket and missiles, towards Eilat. This was one way of stretching the limits of the rules of the game. The other was that they were involved in an attempt to send very advanced weaponry to the hands of terrorists in the West Bank and the Judean Samaria area, in order to upgrade severely the damage that they can do to Israeli targets in the Judean Samaria area and beyond. And these two steps were exposed recently, one when the drone hit a target in Eilat, and the other when the Israeli security forces were able to thwart the attempt to launch this, to send this armament to the West Bank. And this was clear that we have to also stretch a little bit the limits of the rules of the game in order to deter the Iranians from going on with their intention. And that led to the attack against Mahdavi, Zahedi, whatever his name was, both names are correct, and killing him and some of his entourage in Damascus, in a way that the Iranians said, okay, if we are going to stretch the limits, let's go and play a totally different game. And that led to this effort last night. The effort was involving so many missiles and drones, because they understand that we have a strong defense line. And in order to be able to hit and cause damage to Israel, they had to launch many rockets and many missiles, just in order to make sure that with the percentage, if you send 330 missiles and Israel has 95% success in intercepting them, then you're going to have something like 15 missiles hit the targets. Unfortunately, from their point of view, we had a much higher level ratio of interception. So the number of missiles and drones that hit the targets was much lower, and the Iranians failed in the attempt to hit the targets they have chosen. And that's where we stand right now. They are frustrated. Of course, they don't say so, but they are very frustrated with the very limited results they managed to cause, very limited damage they managed to cause. Now, Israel is facing with a challenge now. What do we do? We were very successful on the defense, and we definitely managed to cause a lot of damage to the Iranian reputation. But we definitely have to respond in one way or another to this challenge posed by the Iranians. I think that we cannot leave this open file without some retaliation. But the kind of retaliation is going to be measured in the sense that Israel doesn't want to lead to a regional war, what we want to see happening is strengthening the chances of building a better Middle East, a more stable one, with limiting the capabilities of this fanatic regime in Iran. And for that purpose, what we need to do is first finish the job in Gaza, which is going to be painful for the Iranians. All of that started because they wanted to save Hamas. So we have to make sure that Hamas is defeated and the hostages are released. That's one thing that is the number one on our agenda. Second is to make sure that there are repercussions from what happened to the Iranian nuclear project. Just imagine if something like that would have happened when the Iranians have nuclear weapons, and they are so close to having them. So it's something that has to be taken into control and making sure that they are not going to be able to proceed and make more progress with their nuclear project. And for that, what we need is an international cooperation. And Israel can contribute some efforts, but it's bigger than just Israel at this point. And we need the international community to take the initiative and put pressure on the Iranian nuclear project. And third, what needs to be done is to help the Iranian people in their effort to get themselves rid of this regime that denies them their rights, that makes them suffer, that misuse their resources. As was seen tonight, this is where the resources are going. And instead of improving their conditions, we know that the economic situation in Iran is disastrous. And so is the situation of human rights over there and minority rights. And I think it's high time that the international community, with Israel's support, will put more pressure on the Iranian regime and support the Iranian people in their effort to get rid of this unacceptable regime. That is what needs to be happening now. We saw, by the way, that all the preparations we did in advance for this eventuality for many years, we have developed, and Tal is going to speak about it. We developed the tools with which we can face this kind of threat, and we develop the practices and the training that was necessary in order to be able to cooperate with our partners in facing this threat. And all these preparations and force build-up paid off extremely well tonight, and the result was not just an incident, but definitely a result of this very long investment in all those things. So we are pleased with the results, but we know that this is not the end of the confrontation, and we have to do more in order to improve the situation in the Middle East and improve the situation for us and for the Palestinians as well, by the way, getting them rid of the same fanatical groups that rule them. Questions?
Yes, thank you very much for that. So it seems that we've moved already on to the issue of Israel expanding or returning to its operation in Gaza. But I think what everyone on the line still wants to understand is what we have vis-a-vis Iran over the next few days. Have we seen all that we're going to see in regards to a direct confrontation with Iran? Israeli civilians had quite a precise timetable for last night's strikes. It seems that everybody knew what was happening. We knew exactly when to stay in safe rooms. What do you think we're going to see over the next few days? And after answering that, of course, if we are looking at something developing, then is Israel capable of fighting on both these fronts? If you say that we need to continue the work that we have started in Gaza?
So we can fight on both fronts simultaneously, because these are different assets that you use in those two fronts. But it doesn't mean that we want to fight on those two fronts simultaneously. We want to make sure that we have retaliation vis-a-vis Iran, and that this brings the story with Iran to stand still for a while before we end the job in Gaza. Because doing what we need to do in Gaza is also a part of the battle against Iran. Well, this entire war from day one is a war against Iran. It's just the rules of the game has changed, but the game is still the same game. It's us against the Iranians and their proxies from day one. And we have to finish the job in Gaza in order to cause much damage to the Iranian axis in general. and we are so close to do what we need to do in Gaza. So especially after the Hamas came back with their message of refusal to move forward on the hostages deal, then we definitely have to finish the job in Gaza to put more pressure on Hamas in order to force them to move forward and to put pressure on the Iranians. And this would help us also in the context of Hezbollah, because the more pressure we put on Iran, the more pressure we put on Hamas, Hezbollah is going to be also in a weaker situation. I think this what happened tonight weakened the Iranian axis significantly, and we have to build on that achievement in order to further weaken them. We will have to do something vis-a-vis Iran directly, just to prove that we can do that, and so that the Iranians will know that they cannot hit us and we can hit them. But I think we shall find something that is just sending a message, not destroying Iran, and that initial reaction. If they will continue and move on as they promised to do, we shall be able always to move to something bigger and cause them a lot of greater damage, and they will have to take that into account. But the first move or simultaneous move has to be in Gaza. We have to finish the job in Gaza. And as I said, these are totally different forces. We don't use ground forces or close air support forces when we fight against Iran. We use totally different assets.
Sorry, so what will this declarative move look like on Israel's part? And do we have international support to strike back now? Although there are calls saying that Israel should just let the G7 and sanctions do their work.
First of all, G7 and sanctions are welcome. And we are going to be very happy to see them employed. That said, we need to actually send this message to the Iranians. And the Americans say, we are not going to be part of it. Okay, good. Although I have question marks about that. Because after all, what we saw this last night was that the Iranians ignored the American message. American message was don't. There was a while when it was not totally clear whether the don't still stands or not. And then the don't reappeared the last stage before the attack. I think it reappeared a little bit too late for the Iranians to take it into account. If they have already decided to act, it was too late for them to stop all the preparations just because President Biden said don't in the last minute. And now the question is for the United States. What do they mean by don't? If the don't means just request, that's one thing. If the don't means that there is a price for ignoring it, then they should stand by their don't. And even if we do what we do by ourselves, they should support it. What we see today is that the rumors have it that they are not supporting any sort of kinetic reaction to what happened last night. I think it's wrong on behalf of the United States, because they also have to arrange their position in the Middle East. People were not very appreciative of how strong the United States is. I mean, what happened tonight helped improve it, but the way the Iranians ignored the don't is not something that is good for the United States from a strategic point of view here in the Middle East and maybe even beyond. So I think that's also good for the Americans to support us in some sort of a limited, very well pinpointed reaction that will send a message that we can charge the Iranians with a heavy price, and then we can move to the other issues, including G7 sanctions, including more efforts to help the Iranian opposition and the Iranian people getting rid of this regime.
General, one journalist is asking whether you believe if the Prime Minister will be taking any of his decisions with political considerations in mind, or are they entirely focused on the defense considerations?
I'm sure they are entirely the outcome of defense considerations. People have to understand on those issues there is wide consensus in Israel. There are these differences of opinion of how exactly we have to react, but everybody thinks we have to react. Maybe not now, maybe later, maybe less powerful reaction and maybe more powerful reaction, but everybody in Israel believes there needs to be some sort of reaction. just like everybody in Israel believes that there needs to be an operation in Rafah. Earlier, sooner, bigger, smaller, but everybody believes that eventually there should be some military operation in Rafah. And I think maybe the Prime Minister has his own political considerations, but on this, there's a wide agreement in the Israeli public and also in the Israeli, I think, defense establishment. It's also the same sort of policy. You hear it from all the members of the cabinet, of the war cabinet. They're all saying the same message, not only one person.
Just another question regarding Iran's plans, if it's something that we're able to actually answer. Israelis tend to travel a lot over the Passover holidays. Are we likely to see further Iranian aggression against Israelis overseas, perhaps, or are they still being careful since last night?
First of all, Israelis should always be careful. Not only because of the Iranians, there are enough people who want to harm us. But yes, this period calls for special carefulness, and because the Iranians are able to cause damage to Israelis abroad, definitely. They tried that in so many places in the past. They have their dormant cells that can be activated at any given time. They decided not to, for the time being, not to use them. But definitely, I'm sure that they are checking this possibility, and because of that, I think Israelis should be careful. This doesn't mean that Israelis shouldn't travel. They can travel, but they should be careful.
And just a question regarding our northern border. The return of Israelis to their homes in the north seems as far away as ever now, considering last night's events. Do you think that anything will change on this front? What developments are we likely to see there vis-a-vis Hezbollah?
Well, I think it's the expected time that we need before they are able to come back to their communities in the north, the Israeli citizens, has been shortened last night because this entire axis of evil that is led by Iran suffered a very heavy blow. And this may make their bargaining position about what kind of arrangement can be worked out in the north much weaker. And I believe that this is something that's going to help us reach some sort of an arrangement in the north. It's definitely it's clear now that Israel can handle all kinds of threats that Hezbollah and Iran have, and that weakens the threat to Israel, and that's something that's going to help us, especially if we finish the job in Gaza. It's going to help us in reaching some sort of an arrangement that would move Hezbollah north of the border and allow the people of northern Israel to come back to the places.
Okay, one last question for General Kuperwasser before we move on to our next speaker. One journalist is saying, it seems that America is willing to defend Israel, but does not want Israel to take an offensive posture, either in Gaza, Lebanon, or Iran. Would you agree with this assessment?
So it seems, yes, I have to agree. It seems that the Americans want us to be good on defense, but avoid offense. It's I think on Gaza it's a little bit different. On Gaza, they understand the need for offense, but they have all kinds of limits on how we do that. Here, in what we hear on the leaks from what the president told the prime minister are that they don't want us to retaliate. That's maybe these leaks are a little bit exaggerated because everybody understands. It's quite all clear that we have to retaliate. It's new rules of the game have been established, and we have to play by the new rules of the game.
Okay, that's very clear. Thank you very much, Brigadier General Yossi Kuperwasser, for your time. And